Greetings, students. Today we start our final section of Chapter 29, The Nations of South America. In Chile, in 1970, Chile elected a socialist president, Salvador Allende, and General Augusto Pinochet, with United States help, overthrew him and established a dictatorship. As part of the policy of containment, the United States did not want socialism or communism to spread anywhere. And as part of this, the U.S. basically helped a dictator to overthrow a democratically elected president. In Argentina, military leaders took control of Argentina after World War II. Famous leaders were Juan Perón and his wife Eva Perón. The lives of the people did improve under their rule, so they became popular. But after Juan Perón's death, new military leaders killed over 36,000 people. In Brazil, Brazil experienced economic problems after World War II. But in the 1960s, their economy began to grow rapidly, but the common people did not benefit. There's a major gap between rich and poor in Brazil that threatens its stability. As you can see here, on this side, on the right side, you have the luxury apartments and condos of individuals with quite a bit of money and tennis courts and pools. And yet over here on the left, you see the favelas, the basically slum housing that exists for the poor people in Brazil. In an attempt to develop further, many nations in South America are cutting down their rainforest. This is called deforestation. Farmers who do this generally use the slash and burn technique of agriculture, where they cut down a tree, and then they burn the trees into ashes, and then they plow those ashes into the ground to provide for some fertilizer. And then they farm the land until it can no longer grow food, meaning it becomes basically desert or useless, and then they move on and cut down more rainforest. As you can see, this is leading to deforestation, continual cutting down of the rainforest as years passed. Now in Peru and Colombia, economic problems in Peru have led to repeated military involvement in the government. And in Colombia, which has a democratic government, but has also had a civil war and numerous problems with drug cartels selling cocaine, among other things. Venezuela. Military dictators ruled Venezuela for several years. In 1979, economic problems forced Venezuela's leaders to step down. In 1998, Hugo Chavez was elected. And before he was elected, Venezuela had become quite a wealthy country. Chavez consolidated political power in Venezuela, bringing radios and news stations under his control. He spoke out against U.S. involvement in Latin America, making him more popular. It's understandable with the U.S. history of involvement in Latin America that many people would not want us to be involved, and his speaking out against us made him more popular. Chavez actually made agreements to work together with Iran in the year 2009. Chavez seized oil companies' assets and put them under government control. Remember, this process is called nationalization, and it made him a hero to many of the people, starting a socialist-style philosophy. However, during his time as president, oil productions began to fall, and oil revenues began to fall. Now, the revenue falling isn't necessarily his fault, because there was a crash in oil prices at that point. But oil production falling was, in fact, part of the problem of his management of the oil industries. Chavez died in 2013, and his policies were continued by his successor, President Maduro. Venezuela's currency has collapsed, and it is experiencing hyperinflation to the point where they had had many refugees fleeing to other areas. In some cases, women going across the border to Colombia to sell their hair, which would be made into wigs, so that they could then buy groceries and bring it back home. This is the end of this particular slideshow.